I thought I'd take a few minutes and show you some pictures of our work at Ulasan, Mindoro in the Philippines. It's kind of a windy day. The door's open, the windows are open. You may hear some barking, you may hear some who knows what. You know, when we went to the Philippines, we took the old and the young. Here is Big Papa, as our grandchildren called him. Great Grandpa Nash, Russell Nash, with Wes waiting at the Atlanta airport. We got there early because we had lots of luggage. There's 2 carts full. And there's Keith, Becca, Liz, Big Papa, Great Grandpa Nash, Cherry, and Wes and a backpack behind her. Many hours later, here we are at Ulasan. Took a day to make the trip, and then after a bit of recovery, we went to Ulasan. There's Becca reading to Liz and Daryl. Daryl is the son of Sir Dario and Eleanor, the principal and teacher at Ulasan. Philippine Mountain Ministries. If you want to know more about this little jeepney, we call it the Pandasal Jeepney, sharing Jesus in the heart of the Philippines, the bread of life, the Munyan Mission, Ulasan City. It's made with a 16 horsepower Briggs & Stratton lawnmower engine, and yet it pulled a pretty good little load. It did not require licensing. There's quite a story behind it. Look in our Miracle Stories section. Here's a picture of the dad, Russell. This was the 2nd or 3rd jeepney that we made. And inside the picture, or the name of our grandchildren. Notice Joby, J-O-B-I, because in the Philippines it's language is from a Spanish origin, and I is pronounced E, so they spelled it Joby. And there's little Chad. There's Marky and Althea, Pastor George and Ate Bing's 2 older ones. Elizabeth, there's Rebecca and Wes. This was a soul-winning jeepney, dedicating to serving the Lord, and it is still in service today. Dad Russell Jeepney was named after my dad. Here I am in the Bread of Life Jeepney, looking miserable and feeling awful. We're on our way to Ulasan. Here is Nancy reading a story. You see Wes there, very interested. Above him is Daryl. And now we're having the ribbon cutting ceremony for the school. Pastor George assisting. There's Jan with scissors in hand holding Wes in her left arm, and myself snipping the ribbon on the left-hand side. The dedication of the school at Ulasan, Pastor Jack, Pastor George, and Mayor Antonio Sambutan is seated behind us as we are giving the address. Earlier that morning, something unusual going on in Ulasan. Here's a picture of Mom Eleanor Benitez talking on Pastor Jack's satellite phone to Dr. and Mrs. Chamberlain back in Tennessee. They were the major supporters of the building of this school. Zooming in there, some of the school children gathered around while this unusual phone call was going on, using a satellite phone. Following the dedication, a picture was taken of the dedication attendees. People came from Palawan down in the village, the town down below, the lowlanders, and There were some government officials here who came to be a part of this event. It was quite a day. And Mom Eleanor, I'm sure, is the one that was behind it. But she arranged for some frangipani leis to go around our necks. And there's Pastor Jack and Pastor George. Here is Sir Dario and Pastor Jack. Sir Dario is the principal of the school. And the younger generation, I don't know who the young lady is on the left, but there's our grandson Wes, Daryl, and Xavier, children of Sir Dario and Mom Eleanor. And there they are pictured on that special occasion. Our whole guest team is pictured here. Cherry on the left with Becca, myself with Wes in front of me. There's Mom Jan, as they call her, and Lizzie down in front. There's my dad, Dad Russell, and in front of him is Keith, and there's Pastor George. I don't know who the people are who are in the photobomb there. Here's Mom Eleanor taking a look at the treadle sewing machine that we bought for her so that she could sew and make clothes for the village people. Here she is looking at some of the medicines and supplies that we brought to her. Now let's turn back the clock. What was it like when we first came? Well, that's a picture of what it was like, the way it was then. The wooden house behind the green and red jeepney is the house where Sir Dario, Mom Eleanor, and the children lived. And then off to the right is the duplex that Pastor George had solicited funds and built. Notice the tarp and the bamboo and the church benches down below. The tarp, this was in anticipation of evangelistic meetings that we were going to hold. The red roof there, that's actually where the old school was. It was in the meeting room behind the platform where the elders prepared to go on the platform. Oh my, it was just packed with children. Notice the condition of the church at that time. Mom Jan just told me there were 65 students crammed into that little room. Here we are inside of the jeepney. This is on a later trip, but my dad sitting in the captain's chair in the front right. There he is again, a little bit awake, drinking some pineapple juice. There we are getting things unloaded, getting set up. You hear the dogs barking in the background. That's here today. There's my dad and Wes early one morning. My dad sitting on the platform, on the front porch of the teacher's duplex. We had a typhoon going through at that time. Heavy, heavy rains. You can see the rain. My dad's sitting there just watching the rain and enjoying it. Here is the banner welcoming the people to the Victory in Jesus Family Crusade, May 19 to 26, 2001. So that is the Bread of Life jeepney at that point in time. Our daughter Cherry went along with her family. As you know, she's preparing for the children's meeting, selecting the felts for the Bible felt board. And here she is starting the meeting, introducing her two girls. Some of the action songs taking place. The children listening to the story as Cherry told it, and Mom Eleanor translated for her. Prayer at the end of the meeting. Notice Beck and Elizabeth in the front holding a bag, just waiting. The children have been told that they have a gift for them. There's Becca giving toothbrushes to the children. Here's one young fellow who has a toothbrush and is happy to have it. Children's Sabbath school, Sabbath morning, under the tarp on the bamboo framework. You can see that bamboo. And there's a place for fellowship. And my dad in the background, Jan, sharing food with the three grandchildren, Becca, Elizabeth, and Wes. Here's the Bread of Life jeepney bringing a group of people from Andianan, another Munyan village, a tribal village. And here is a picture of our group, Pastor George with Althea, his daughter, their daughter. And there we are from left to right. Myself, my dad, Russell Nash, Pastor George Althea. Behind George is Keith. Behind him is Ate Bing. Ate means older sister. It's not auntie, but Ate. And then next to her is Jan holding Wes, which is typical. In front of them, Cherry. In front of her, Becca and Elizabeth. One more look at the Pandesal jeepney. Pandesal is a small bread, like a roll. And we already had the Bread of Life, which was a large jeepney. So this was called the Pandesal, a smaller Bread of Life jeepney. So what do you do when you get a sliver? Well, Wes wasn't real happy about it, but with Keith holding his leg, Cherry was removing the sliver. On another occasion, here we are having worship service under the large mango tree. Baptism time, and we are headed up the trail, just a few minutes. Ended up being quite a long walk for us who are not used to it. But now that I go there, I see that it's not so far. But my dad walked to this place too, and he was in his 80s. Beautiful place to have a baptism. So here the church is being redeveloped, rebuilt. The old school portion has been torn away. The roof off the entire building has been replaced with a new roof structure. And do you notice some of the students with goats? My dad and Cherry are there. Cherry's got Wes on her hip. Yeah. See those goats? We called the program Kids for Kids. We raised funds for the children of the village to take care of goats, to raise them, to breed them, and sell them. There are more pictures of the kids with the kids. And there's a picture of Daryl, the teacher and principal's son. Here's our harvest of cashews. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 bags of cashews. Some good value there in cashews. Well, in place of that old school, this is what you find today. These pictures were taken this spring and summer. Quite a difference from the little one-room school with 65 students crammed into just a small area. In the library, We thank the teacher that's there now, Sir Remwell, and his wife Alma, for keeping the school so beautiful. They painted it. Sir Remwell painted it. So currently there's about 100 students attending this school. And we're looking over from the teacher's duplex. Many happy hours spent on this porch. And over to the right is the dormitory that has been built for additional students to come from Andianan. And there's the church across the way with its beautiful new roof. Inside the church on Sabbath morning, and the fellowship area out under one of the large mango trees. So fellowship luncheons take place here. Water was a problem when we got there. And on one trip that Cherry and Keith and the kids went with us, we decided we were going to expand their water system. They had one faucet for 300 people in the village. Here is Jack, one of the village boys, helping dig a trench to bury the pipe. And here is the old truck that brought the gravel to be used to make a platform for the faucets. What do you do when you come to a large tree? Well, you don't cut the tree down, you just go around it. And what do you do when you have a birthday? Well, here's Wes on his 5th birthday with his basketball given by his ate, his older sister, Becca. And there's Keith and Wes at the basketball court. Wes was making 2 out of 4 baskets. Good job, Wes. Cherry took the kids down to the ocean, the South China Sea, along with Mom Eleanor and Mom Jan. And here the kids are helping the fishermen pull in their nets. And yes, Mom Eleanor and Jan got involved as well. Something very special for Becca and Elizabeth. If you look in the lineup on opening exercises at flag raising ceremony, you might be able to see Becca and Elizabeth. There they are. And then in the classroom. Hello to our Ulasan friends and family. If you've made it this far, maybe you're interested in Ulasan and the work that we have been able to accomplish there. Our first concern, why we are here. I shared these thoughts with our members last April 2018. Why are we here? Our first concern. Pastor George first brought us to Ulasan almost 20 years ago now. My elderly father came with us, and he always wore his barong with a Seventh-day Adventist logo, conference logo on it that we had made up for him. My elderly father came with us. Here he is pictured in the hospital bed the last week he was living. The Philippines was very important to him. Our daughter Cherry, her husband Keith, you may remember him with the big beard and the long hair, and their 3 small children, Becca, Elizabeth, and Wes, came with us. You see Wes wearing his little barong. Pastor George brought us here because he said this village had been almost forgotten. You see, visitors came and went. They said they wanted to help but did not return. So we took Ulasan on the island of Mindoro as our challenge. With Pastor Panghulin's encouragement and support, we returned many times. Don't be confused. We call him Pastor George for short. Pastor George Penghulen. Pastor Penghulen continues to bring visitors to Ulasan, hoping they will give help to you. What was Ulasan like many years ago? Some of you may remember some of these pictures. Here you are, church members, donating your time and energy for your church building. Tearing off the old roof. And of course, we had to stop for dinner. Lunch was provided, rice, pancit noodles, some fish. Thank you to all the members of the Ulasan Church for being a part of this work bee. It's kind of standard around the world. Church members get together, donate their time to improve their church building. Yes, even including Nina, and Nino. I stopped it so that we could talk, and we think it's Nana Nino. Interesting story. She asked Pastor George, how old is she? Well, how do you know how old a lady is? She had no birth certificate. So Pastor George said, well, were you living when World War II was underway? Oh, yes. And how old were you then? Well, I don't know. So Pastor George asked her, well, when did you blossom? When did you develop and become a young lady? So she stated that, yeah, it was during World War II. So we assumed that she was 12 years old, approximately, at that time. So we think that she may have been, so best our calculation, she would have been in her 70s in this picture here. And yet she's there working. She's still living today. So that's going to put her in her 90s. Everybody working. Bless their hearts. They provided labor. Thank you to our Ulasan family. They needed fresh water, the little supply they had. February 2003, we found a fresh spring, and we brought in the pipe, and with the help of ADRA, we provided a fresh water system, a large cistern, and lots of fresh flowing water. Unless, of course, someone becomes unhappy with us and cuts the water line, thinking that that will bring us. We're still drinking water where we live. But that's the water supply. April 2003, the Pathfinder Fair for the South Central Ulasan Conference took place here, and they enjoyed that water. This is a picture inside of the teacher's duplex after we painted it and put tile on the floor. Someone might ask from Ulasan, why have we partnered with you to do all of this at Ulasan? I can tell you simply, we funded the rebuilding of the church because we care about you. We funded the building of the first 2 school classrooms because we care about you. We funded the building of the additional schoolrooms because we care about you. And when we were approached by individuals about us buying some of their land here in Ulasan because they needed money, we thought that by purchasing the land, it would be a blessing to those selling, and it would provide us property which we hope to develop and use to bless the school. They assured us they had other property and they didn't need this land. We started various programs to be a help to the parents and students because we care about you. Soon we realized that some were selling their land. Some who were selling their land said to others that they would take the money we paid for the purchase of the land, but they believed that we would go away. We'd go back to America and we'd forget about the land, and they would still be able to continue to use the land that they sold to us. And honestly, we felt betrayed and used, tricked. We thought we could trust those people. Given that our first concern was the salvation of each person in Ulasan, we continued to support as we were able and took precautions to protect the land from being taken over by those who wanted to use it. We hired various caretakers to live on the land, to plant, to care for the plants and harvest. Our purpose was to provide an income to PMMF, that's PM Mission Foundation, Inc., that we would use to help the school. Unfortunately, there was never a profit from the land. We stopped paying a caretaker and asked the new caretaker to occupy the land and use the land to supply their needs and give PMMF a share of the profits, intending to use it to benefit the school. We learned that villagers were helping themselves to the produce of our land, and they weren't happy because the caretakers were benefiting from the land, even though it was our land, and still is. So, now a quiz to see if you remember some people. Do you remember these people? Who recognizes these men? When I was in Ulasan in April, I said, I have a prize for all the children if someone can identify these men. And I gave a packet of chocolate chip cookies to everyone, children and adults there. Well, these men are the surveyors. This is the government surveying team, and they came to establish that the boundaries of the property of PMMF that we bought, where it was, before registering the deed and paying the back taxes. Please notice, the people who sold us the property had not paid taxes. And here is the head of the survey team reading the description of the land. Here is the breakdown on the chalkboard at the school. If you're still here, I guess it's time for a lesson. A lesson about Philippine property and about property for the ICC, the Indigenous Cultural Community. There are two kinds of property for the indigenous people. There is the ICC property, which is the indigenous community cultural property. It cannot be sold. It is held by all the tribal people, the Munyans as they're called, as a community property. It is not taxed. It is not taxable. What I'm showing you here is a document, a transfer certificate of title. If a piece of property has a title, this piece of property does. This property belonged to Luciano Sambutan, a Filipino of legal age, married to Teresa Sambutan, with a residence and postal address at Palawan, Occidental Mindoro, Philippines. Now, what's interesting about this is that it is an original certificate, and it was granted by the President of the Philippines on the 2nd of May of 1957. This is an original certificate. It is not a transfer certificate. Simply, it is an original. This certificate is a transfer from original certificate number D2472. This was recorded, entered in Mamburao, the 26th of June, 1964. What have we established? It is titled land. It is taxed land. Therefore, it is saleable land. Unlike the community property that is only for the communal use. Go back to the top and let us notice something. This is dealing with a parcel of land from lot 1014B. Now let me show you another transfer. This is a transfer certificate of title, not an original, but a transfer. And this parcel of land from this transfer certificate was granted transfer to Philippine Mountain Ministries, represented by Pastor George Panghulan. And notice it's from lot 1014. So this is property that was sold from the original Luciano and Teresa Sambutan. And it is sold to PMMF. And it's recorded in Mamburao on the 6th of February, 2006. Was it a legal transaction? Yes, in fact, it was. Here is the sales agreement. It was first handwritten and signed by everyone, and then it was typed up and taken to the lawyer, and it was signed by everyone, and it was notarized. And I want to give special attention to this thumbprint by Antonio Sambutan. One of his siblings wrote his name in after he put his thumbprint there. Antonio Sambutan. Here's another document. This one is the final, if you can read it in Tagalog, it is the final payment. It includes the lawyer's fee, it includes having paid the taxes, and the final cash payment. And please notice here the name of Antonio Sambutan. So he accepted payment as a part of the group that received the final payment. And here is a picture. Antonio Sambutan, mayor, and Philemon Sambutan and Pastor Jack. Notice, we are shaking hands. You see that? And what's in the hand? What's going on here? Antonio Sambutan, mayor of Ulasan, accepting the final payment from Pastor Jack for the property he, Antonio, sold to PMM. Philemon Sambutan was one of the witnesses. This was Friday, November 14, 2003. Why do I emphasize this? Because this man today is causing problems, trying to lay claim to the property, saying he wants it back. He says that the paperwork, the payment, it doesn't mean anything. This is cultural property. He has reported us to the government agency that deals with indigenous people. We have met with them, provided all our documentation. And the next step is to meet with the village people and go over the same material, which I have already done, but now the government will be involved. One of his claims is that we promised to educate all their children, all the way through the university. So the claim is that because we didn't educate all their children through college, that somehow the property belongs to them. However, the sales agreement doesn't link that in any way. And in fact, what is this? I have around my neck a remembrance that says thank you, and I hold in my hand a thank you mug and a graduation pendant around my neck with Gimo Sambutan. This is the son of Antonio Sambutan, who was mayor. Interestingly enough, trying to get the dogs to quit barking here. Interestingly enough, when Gimo said he wanted to go to high school, he didn't want to just go through grade 6 there at the church school that we provided in Ulasan. His father said, you know, I'm successful. I'm the mayor. I have not received an education. I cannot read or write, but I'm successful. You don't need an education. So it's laughable that he's saying that we promised to educate all the children. And no, we do want to educate their children, but it was nothing to do with the sale. And in fact, so there is a thank you from Gimo. Sad to say, Antonio Sambutan did not come to the graduation. So Antonio did not come, but Jan and I attended. And Gimo graduated. We're proud of him. He's done a good job. He's working hard to overcome whatever issues he may have. We have many fond memories in Ulasan. And to the members there, we will simply say, God be with you. And for those who are viewing this on the internet, check some of the other Ulasan videos.